So, now till Guinier and Perrot's Kratky plot, you are clear. What is Kratky plot, what is Guinier plot, and what kind of information one can collect out of these two plots. So, they are in which region? Both Guinier plot and Kratky plot. There are three different regions. First region is Guinier region, second is the Fourier region, third is the Perrot's region. Then Kratky plot and Guinier plot corresponding to which region of the scattering curve. Kratky plot belongs to which region and Guinier plot belongs to which region. There are three regions, right. If you take any small angle axis scattering data, then this is if S, this is IS, then the curve goes in this way. This is the first region, second region, third region. It is Guinier, it is Fourier, it is Perrot. These are the three different regions from where you can collect the information. First Guinier is for size, second Fourier for shape, third Perrot for the surface. Three region gives three different kinds of information. So, size, shape, surface, three altogether are there in the same curve, but you have to distinguish from where you will collect the information. So, then in relevant to these three regions there are two plots, one is Guinier plot and the other one is Kratky plot. These are the two plots from where you can collect important informations relevant to size, shape and surface. So, then now Guinier plot is in which region and Kratky plot is in which region, means which intensity data you are requiring for Guinier plot and Kratky plot. How can you plot the Guinier plot? What is the axis for Guinier plot and for Kratky plot what are the axes? If this is Kratky and this is Guinier, then what are the axes for those two plots? How can you plot these two? What versus what? Which one? Kratky is IS, S square versus S, right? And this one Guinier IS versus S, right. So, now which intensity you will take here and which intensity you will take here? Can you take the all data or you have to select? Because here is intensity, here is intensity. Which intensity you will take to plot the graph? That is why region is important. Kratky is for Perrot region, remember it. Kratky is for Perrot region, Guinier is for Guinier region, right. Kratky is for Perrot region, Guinier plot is for Guinier region. You cannot take any other data. This I values corresponding to Guinier plot Guinier region, Kratky plot Perrot region. If you take the data and plot the graph, then you will get the information that you need, right. So, these two are, so which region is giving radius of gyration, which plot? Guinier plot, this one. So, the radius of gyration information you can collect from Guinier plot, and similarly Perrot plot gives what kind of information? From Perrot plot what information you can collect? Surface, yes, of course that is surface, right. How it is, whether it is rough, smooth, if smooth how, and if not then how is the surface built. So, then now the hardware and instrumentation. Unless you get the correct data, it is useless. All the analysis will be useless unless you get the correct experimental data. For that you need the hardware as well as the instrumentation. How to collect the data, with what accuracy you can get the data. These are very important parts for any intensity data collection. May it be XRD, may it be small angle scattering, may it be neutron scattering, may it be light scattering. Once it is scattering diffraction, be careful about the intensity data, how you are collecting. If the collection of data is wrong, all the information that you collected are wrong, because that intensity only carries the information about everything. So, one should be very careful when collecting the data. That is why hardware and instrumentation is the most important part in scattering and diffraction experiments, may it be with visible or invisible light. For all scattering and diffraction data, one should be very, very careful, otherwise you can never get correct information. So, in that respect, if you go for the next slide, that is called as the hardware and instrumentation. So, you know the difference in hardware and software, most of you might have know. What is the difference in hardware and software? Why they are called so? Why software and why hardware? Hardware means, yes, you can have the information by touching it, by knowing it, by observing it, but in case of software, nothing, right? You cannot touch it. You may collect information, but without any touching. But if it is hardware, you must have to touch it to know what is there. That is the difference between hardware and software. So, then now for this instrumentation, everything is touchable, one should know, otherwise the data collection will be wrong. That is why it is hardware and instrumentation, right. So, as I told you, there are two ways the data are collected. One is the laboratory system and synchrotron system, right. All the data are collected in synchrotron. So, these are the two kinds of facilities available to us for collecting the scattering or diffraction data, right. Then what is the difference between this lab system and the synchrotron system? You know the difference between lab system and synchrotron is only by the photon flux, how powerful flux is there with the source, right. If this source is having 10 to the 9 photons per second, lab system, this is having more than 50 photons per second. That is why it is much powerful in comparison to lab system. The flux is very high, that is why intensity is very high in case of synchrotron in comparison to lab system. And if here is an source and here is the sample, here is the detector, intensity of this is equally important as intensity of this, both are equally important, because this intensity is controlled by this intensity. If this intensity is poor, you may not collect proper data, it may not be detected properly. So, source should have much more higher flux, so that in scattering and diffraction experiment usually the intensity falls down. Usually all scattering and diffraction intensities falls down in comparison to source intensity. Like you see the grating experiment, the first order intensity is very less in comparison to direct, second order is still less than the direct. So, it is obvious for any diffraction and scattering experiment intensity falls drastically. So, unless the source is powerful, it may happen that the intensity that you will collect in the detector may not be sufficient enough to give you the informations. That is why you should see first what is your source, from where it comes, how powerful the source is, because it will control the scattering intensity, where the informations are there. The informations are here, and unless it is strong source, this will be weak, hence the information correction will be not enough. You are doing the experiment to collect information, but unless you collect the proper intensity data, you are not doing the experiment properly. That is why the source should have much more powerful, otherwise this will be weak, hence you are losing the information. And in that respect, synchrotron is the best source, because you know the flux. The synchrotron source is very high powerful source, from where it is about how many times? More than 41 times stronger than lab source, and that is why people are running after it. If they require the, you can tell it may happen with the laboratory system, some of the informations are not available, not possible, not feasible, but synchrotron can do it because of their power, right. Some of the phases are not visible with this lab source, but clearly visible with the synchrotron source with the same sample. So, if it feels so, then one has to go for synchrotron radiation, right. It happens sometimes if you see a material, some of the phases are detectable by the lab source, but some of the phases, let for example, there are nano voids in the system which may not be visible by lab source, but clearly visible by synchrotron source because of the power. Same material, but still you are losing information when you do the experiment with lab system, because the intensity is very poor for the source. But the same material when taken to the synchrotron source, since its power is very high, so obviously everything is clear, everything is clearly resolved what is there inside the material. So, which is not possible by lab system is possible now by the synchrotron radiation. There is a difference in synchrotron source and the lab source. So, lab source can give you the information to some extent, but not completely, but synchrotron can do everything whatever you want. No information is missed if you are doing with synchrotron. You may miss some of the information if you are doing with lab, but cannot be by synchrotron. That is why people are going for synchrotron radiation. It is much more powerful source available across the globe. In our country, it is now there in Indore under Department of Atomic Energy, that is for synchrotron radiation, but people are trying to go ahead achieve the small angle part. It is not completely satisfactory data. They have tried it, but data is not satisfactory. So long as the data are not acceptable, people will not go to do the experiment there, and they have to go out. So, then now it is very difficult to show you the exact diagram or the instrumentation or the components of the instrument, but the basic thing is that here there will be, I will show you the sketch what happens in those experiments. It is X-ray beam, this is the X-ray beam comes, and here are the samples, whatever may be the sample, what you may take as a sample which has to be analyzed by scattering or diffraction experiment, right. So, this is, let us say I am telling you the case of a protein solution, it goes like this, anything you can take, but I am putting here the protein solution, source is there, protein solution is there, then obviously you will get the scattered data. Here the detector is there, this is the detector, right. So, this beam may be from lab, may be from synchrotron, right. In synchrotron also that is there, there is small angle X scattering, and in lab also there is small angle scattering. Only depends on this beam, what is the X-ray beam, whether it is coming from the synchrotron or from lab source, right. So, that depends, that is why I am told this beam means you have to know very well whether it is lab beam or synchrotron beam. And again in synchrotron there are various windows for different purpose, because at a time maybe 100 people are working together for different purpose. There is a small angle X scattering window, there is an XRD window, different kinds of experiments are going with X-ray and other radiations available in the synchrotron system. At a time not less than 100 people are doing their experiment. So, synchrotron is a very powerful source, simultaneously giving many different kinds of radiations other than X-ray, not only X-ray, other kinds of radiation like ultraviolet radiations, many more radiations are coming out at the same time. So, many people can work together at different windows. Beam line, they are called as the beam line. There are few X-ray beam line, there are few gamma ray beam line, there are few other kind of radiations. If they require, they can go and do the work there. So, there are selected beam lines like that. There is a SAX beam line in every synchrotron, and it is a must. All the synchrotron facilities available across the world is having this beam line. All the synchrotron, wherever it may be across the world. Similarly, there must be XRD, there must be XRF, fluorescence, different window. This is 1, 2, 3, like that. Many other X-ray facilities are also there, like EDAX, yes, EDAX is there. These are all X-ray techniques by which structures are analyzed, materials are characterized. right. So, then now because you see in lab system all are there, SAX is there, XRD is there, XRF is there, EDAX is there, many more are there, but they are not that powerful like synchrotron, right. Everything is there in lab, but they are not that powerful like a synchrotron radiation. That is why people if require, then they will go there and work for their work. So, now like this SAX, it is a must. Every synchrotron radiation center across the globe must have the SAX beamline. There is not any single synchrotron facility across the globe is having small angle X-ray scattering beamline. All are having everywhere. Similarly, XRD, XRF, EDAX and many more, they are referred to which radiation? Only X-ray. All are referred to only X-ray, but different windows to do their experiment. So, the beamlines are well defined. Which beamline is for what purpose? Right? X-ray is coming, but this beamline is only for a small angle X-ray. This beamline is only for XRD. This beamline is only for XRF. Like that, all are well defined. So, when you getting the time slot for doing the experiment with synchrotron, you will have to get prior appointment when your time is there for synchrotron facility, right. So, you will go to the respective beamline and start your experiment accordingly, right, and it is running throughout the day and night. Throughout day and night that continues, people are working there throughout day and night. Because your slot is fixed, time slot is fixed, you will go and do your experiment. Once it is over, you will have to leave. You cannot continue as per your own will. It is well defined time. This much is your time, whatever you have done, you have to leave for the next slot. So, these are the arrangements one has to, yes, now the question is, when you are telling it is X-ray beam, then comes to the sample, then your detector, then here you are getting the intensity, right. The scattered intensity or diffracted intensity, whatever it may be, everything is detected here. It is general case for any experiment, scattering, diffraction, fluorescence, whatever it may be, all are going to similar category. There should be a beam, there should be a sample and there should be a detector. But for what purpose you are doing, depending on that, these are different techniques. May it be small angle X-ray scattering, may it be wide angle X-ray scattering, may it be X-ray fluorescence, may it be energy dispersed energy X-ray, but all are relevant to the structure of the material, all, right. All those techniques are only for structure analysis. You know, these two are very important and others are when necessary, people has to do, right. So, then now the question is, what kind of arrangements are there in case of the small angle and wide angle XRD? Wide angle is your XRD, small angle is small angle. So, the very important thing, when you are telling to do an experiment, you come back to the optics experiment that you might have done in the laboratory here. If you are going to do an diffraction experiment, what you are generally doing? You might have do the grating experiment, right. All of you might have done the grating experiment. So, what generally you are doing there when it is diffraction experiment? What are the requirements for a diffraction experiment? First tell for visible, same thing is applied to invisible. X-ray is invisible, but this is visible, that is the only difference, otherwise everything is same. So, invisible, that is the grating experiment, what are the requirements? In what way you are doing that experiment? There is a source, right. What is that source? What is the source for a grating experiment in the laboratory when you are doing a diffraction experiment? What is the source there? Sodium light, right. Source is sodium light having two wavelengths. What are the wavelengths? 5, 6, 1, 0, 1, 8 angstrom, dichromatic, sorry 1, 6, right. At an interval of 6 angstrom, there are two lines That is why it is not monochromatic, but dichromatic. Sodium light is never monochromatic, it is dichromatic, right. But so then now here is a sodium light source, here you are putting the grating, and here you are observing with the help of a telescope to measure the angles theta 1 and theta 2, right. So, here is the grating, here is the source, and here are the position. If it direct, then it is theta 1, and here you are measuring theta 2, right, on this side also. So, now this source is a dichromatic source having two lines, and it interacts with this grating, which is usually a student's grating with having number of lines how much? 15,000 per inch. That is the grating that you are using, not research level grating it is student's grating having 15,000 lines in 1 inch, right. So, this is the grating put here on the path of the beam, then diffraction takes place and detected with the help of a telescope, right. Telescope is there to detect. So, detector here is the telescope. Then now, so this is the direct beam, intensity is obviously very high, but when you go to the first order and second order, you will see how the intensity is drastically reducing. So, the pattern of the diffraction pattern goes like this: direct intensity, first order, second order, right. This is the diffraction pattern. This is direct, first order, second order. So, it may not be feasible, sometimes the second order is visible, you can see only first order. If there is no proper alignment of the spectrometer, it may not be possible to see the second order also. That is the role of the intensity in diffraction and scattering experiments. So, the intensity drastically changes, drastically reduces in comparison to source intensity. So, you should be very careful when you are collecting the intensity data, may it be first order, second order, third order, and so on. That is why people are concentrating only on the first order, because the intensity for first order is usually very large in comparison to second and onwards. That you have observed, realized in the grating experiment, right. Because unless you know this, see the second order, how will you measure theta 2? You have to see, but if the slit is not feasible, how can you locate the telescope where it is? First order is little bit brighter, so it is easy to detect, but when you go for the second order, difficult to detect unless the alignment is proper. If the spectrometer is not properly aligned, you can never get the second order pattern. So, you cannot measure theta 2. Unless you locate where it is, how can you measure theta 2? So, usually therefore, you are good enough to get only theta 1, right. If you are doing the experiment properly with proper alignment, there is possibility of getting theta 2, otherwise not. And theta 2, theta 1 measurement is giving good accuracy for the purpose, because number of observation is very important for any experiment. If more number of orders are involved, then diffraction experiment is good enough. So, measuring only theta 1 will not solve your problem. Measuring theta 1 and theta 2 is much more better than only measuring theta 1, right. So, in that way, you see in the diffraction experiment here, the main role is the intensity. Direct beam intensity is reduced by not less than 17 or 20 times than the primary intensity or source intensity. But when you come here, it is reduced about 40 times, second order. So, unless your source is powerful source, you will never get any intensity for first and second order diffraction or scattering. That is why synchrotron radiation is the best source, right. Synchrotron radiation is the best source. So, now you just replace this visible source by X-ray, everything is same, right. Everything is same, just you replace the visible light by X-ray light. With visible you realized, with invisible you may not, but thing is the same. Similar way it goes on, because same diffraction, same scattering, Whatever you are getting for visible, all are applicable for invisible too. Right? Diffraction is not different from X-ray to visible or gamma ray to X-ray, everywhere it is same, principle is all same, no difference. Right? All the principle is same to visible light. Only difference is that it is invisible and this is visible. So, if it is invisible, then obviously we cannot use your eye. Eye cannot be a detector to detect where this first and second order is, because they are invisible radiations. So, therefore, there should be X-ray detectors, they can detect the X-ray photons. Eye cannot detect the X-ray photons, but the X-ray detector can detect the X-ray photons. That is why here the detector is consisting of X-ray sensitive detectors. They can detect X-ray photons, but your eye cannot detect. So, if you take your eye as the detector, it is only for visible light, right? It is only for visible light. Eye can be a detector only for visible light, but not for invisible light like X-ray. So, therefore, there are different kinds of detectors for X-ray. Again, X-ray detectors are of different types, which is more sensitive. Accordingly, people are selecting depending on the experiment, what kind of experiment you are doing, accordingly select your detector, which is a better detector, but they are all detecting X-ray photons. Once you are telling it is X-ray detector, they are capable to detect X-ray photons, right. How efficiently, it depends on the power of the detector, but all will detect X-ray photons. Once it is X-ray detector, it will detect the X-ray photons. So, then now for example, it is the X-ray beam comes here and interacts with your sample on the path, like here grating is the sample, right. So, X-ray visible light comes, interact with the sample, that is the grating, then gives the diffraction or scattering. Same thing, X-ray beam comes, interact with the sample, diffraction scattering comes, right. This is visible, this is invisible, that is the only difference. But you have to know in what path the X-ray is coming. Otherwise, your X-ray is coming in this path, you are putting your sample here, there is no diffraction, no scattering, right. The path of the X-ray coming from the source must be well defined, in which path the X-ray is coming. On the path you have to put your sample. So, although it is invisible, you have to detect the X-ray beam or path should be well defined, in which path the X-ray beam is coming, whether it is incidenting on the sample or not. That is why there are first fluorescence screens to detect X-ray. So, when the X-ray is coming and it will incident on the screen, green light will be coming out. You can know this is the path of the X-ray. If you are going in this path, light is going on, but when you go here, no light. That means here there is no X-ray, but there is X-ray. So, the path of the X-ray must be well defined, otherwise how can you put your sample? The sample may not be interacted by the X-ray photons, then there is no scattering, no diffraction. Unless the X-ray photons are interacting with the sample, there is no scattering, no diffraction. So, the path of the X-ray beam is well defined, then you put your sample on the path, then you select whether you will go for diffraction or scattering, and again small angle or wide angle, right. What kind of, accordingly the windows are defined, beam lines are defined. This window is meant for only small angle, this window is only meant for wide angle, this window is only meant for XRF, like that it is well defined. So, when you go and start the experiment, the beam line is meant for you, beam is coming, you put your sample here and the detector will collect the data, right. The detector are there, they will collect the data as per your requirement, as per your instruction, what you need, at what angle you need the data, that you have to tell, they will not do anything. When you are going to do the experiment, you have to tell them everything, for what purpose you are coming here, what is your motto to do this experiment. Then they will give the instruction to the hardware and instrumentation part, accordingly data will be collected, right. And after getting the data, that is your job to analyze it to get the structure, right. They will only facilitate, to get the data. Rest job is your job to get the structural information, what is there in your sample. So, that is the basic difference between lab system and synchrotron system, but the principle is all same, and again same with visible. Whatever you are doing with visible light, same thing you are doing with the invisible light, X-ray also. But only different is that you cannot detect the path if it is X-ray, but here you can detect the path. And but this path, what kind of beam you are using for the diffraction experiment when you are doing the grating experiment? It is a visible light beam or not? From where you are getting, what kind of light beam that is? It is diverging beam, converging beam or parallel beam? Beam is defined in three ways: converging, diverging and parallel. What kind of beam is used in grating experiment? Right? You know all three: diverging beam, converging beam, parallel beam. Only three. But what kind of beam is used for diffraction experiment in grating? Parallel beam. That is why there is a collimator. Collimator's job is to get parallel beam. Right? In the spectrometer, if you go for a spectrometer, here is a prism table, this side is the collimator and this side is the telescope. Right? This is the prism table, this is the collimator, this is the telescope, and this telescope is movable. Here you are putting your grating, and this is collimator that gives the parallel beam of sodium light. Right? So, similarly, here also you should take parallel beam of X-ray. Right? Here also you need parallel beam of X-ray, not neither converging nor diverging, and for that there is a collimation system. Right? Like here lenses are there, here crystals are there to make the X-ray beam parallel. That is called as the collimation system. Here it is collimator, here it is collimation system. Its job is to give parallel beam of X-ray. Right? Then, and this beam path is well defined. The parallel beam path of X-ray is well defined, in which path it is coming. Then you put your sample. Your sample path, a sample place is also defined. If you will put the sample in this path, this space, then the beam is interacting, otherwise not. Right? Suppose this is here the beam is coming and you will place your sample here, then what will happen there? Nothing. No scattering, no diffraction. So, the sample place is also well defined. Beam is coming in this way, you put your sample only within this space. So, this sample space is defined, beam line is defined, that is again parallel beam. Then here the detector is also defined, where the detector is at what distance. It is well defined at what distance your detector is placed, because detector distance is all very important. If you are going for small angle, usually distance goes to 5-6 meters, right? 5-6 meters distance is required. The detector must be placed at distance of 5-6 meters when it is small angle. So, therefore, these distances are fixed depending on your experiment. Here is your sample and here is the parallel beam of X-ray. So, this is called as collimation system, which will give you parallel beam, collimation system. Right. So, collimation system will give you the parallel beam of X-ray, then it exposes the sample for which you are going to do either scattering or diffraction experiment. Then here is a detector placed at a certain distance depending on your experiment, what kind of experiment you are doing, whether it is wide angle or small angle, and in case small angle usually distance goes to 5-6 meters. From this sample to detector distance goes to 5-6 meters, but in case of wide angle generally within a meter. So, this is the real arrangement you are getting for synchrotron radiation as well as lab system. Similar arrangement, only difference is the source power, right? Only difference is the source power, otherwise rest things are all there. Here if you go to the lab system also there is collimation system, there is sample holder place or sample to put on the path of the X-ray beam, and there is a detector, right? If this source is powerful, accordingly detector should be also powerful, otherwise it will burnt out. right. If this flux is high, accordingly you have to select your detector, so that you can measure the intensity. So, depending on the source, you have to select your detector, may it be laboratory source or synchrotron source, but all principles are same, instrumentations are same, only difference is that in visible you can detect it, in invisible like X-ray you cannot detect it. Otherwise, same principle, because that is diffraction, this is also diffraction, that is scattering, this is also scattering, may it be visible light or invisible light, that matters, right. Principles are all same, no difference at all, only difference is the frequency, wavelength, visible, invisible, otherwise rest things are all same, principle is same. So, for visible your eye can be a detector, but for invisible X-ray detectors are there, right. For invisible X-ray detectors are here, that they can detect the X-ray photons, what is the intensity of the X-ray photon coming to that angle, right. So, in that way collection of data is usually done, and in that book also it is there, you can collect and study, read it properly, so that you can have idea when you are going to do the experiment, may it be laboratory system or synchrotron radiation, right. If any difficulty, then you can ask me, but read these things whatever is there in this booklet I have given to 3 of you, collect it, xerox it and read it. I am telling the brief things, but in detail if you want it is there in this book, right. This booklet is containing all those information that I told briefly. Go through this, study it, if any difficulty then you ask me, right. So, this is all about the experimental and instrumentation part for this diffraction or scattering, may it be small angle or wide angle, right. So, then the next thing I will tell you about the I told you about the different XRD techniques, in what ways the XRD data is utilized. You will collect the data, all right, but after collecting the data, most important part is the analysis. Unless you do analysis properly, that is useless. Collection of data is equally important to analysis, both are equally important. Collection of data is important and analysis of data is again important, both are equally important. So, not only collecting data will solve your problem, unless you analyze the data properly, right. So, collection of data is one part, analysis of the data is the other part, both are equally important, because you have good data, but if you are not analyzing them properly, then again the same thing will happen, you are not getting good results for your structure, because everything is meant for structure only, atomic level structure. So, getting good data will not solve your problem unless you do it with proper analysis. You should have to learn what to do for the analysis, how the data will be handled, how can I handle the data. So, getting data is not enough, learning analysis is good enough to getting good structure, right. So, they are equally important, how to get data, then how to get proper analysis, how to handle the data for your structure. So, in that handling part, the 3 things are very important. Handling the data, data means I am telling general, may it be diffraction or scattering, right, may it be XRD data or small angle data, all goes in the similar way. In general it is data handling, how can you handle your data. Data means these intensity values, at what angle, what intensity, because this is your data, if it is S, this is your IS, that is shown like this, this is the data, right, that is collected with the instrument. Instrument gives you this much, right, but after getting the data, you have to analyze the data properly to get your structure. It is small angle data I am telling, if it is XRD, it goes like that, this, again same thing, it is S and IS, no difference, right. May it be XRD, may it be small angle, but you are collecting the data. the behavior and nature of the data are different. One is small angle, other is wide angle, right. And this is called as your XRD and this is your small angle X-ray scattering. And you know the difference, why it happens and how it happens, right. Why you are getting peaks for XRD, not for the small angle, right. In small angle you are not getting any peak, but in wide angle you are getting peaks, right. If it is a crystalline sample, of course, if it is a crystalline sample you are getting the peaks, right. But if it is semi crystalline, not exactly peaks, there is some broadening corresponding to amorphous part, right. If it is semi crystalline means partly crystalline, partly amorphous, but if it is crystalline then only you will get this sharp peaks without any broadening. So, once broadening is involved there are various factors for which the intensity data can broaden, right. Suppose it goes in this way, it is broadened, but this is sharp. So, sharp intensity implies it is having crystalline structure, but if that kind of broadening is there, you have to see what is the reason behind this broadening. Sometimes it is for nanostructure, but which is not resolvable by XRD. Nanostructure is never resolvable by XRD, but it gives, suppose you will find out the crystallite size, then it goes to, sometimes people are telling that is nano order. It is never true. You should not believe, it cannot be, because this XRD can never resolve any nano order length, never, impossible, right. So, then now the reason is that why they are telling that it is nano order, because they do not know the reason why that broadening is there. They only take it in account that there is broadening is, if there, it is because of nanostructure. It is never this case, never. That is why nano order structure can never be resolved from XRD, never, because they are neglecting the other reasons for which the broadening is there. Broadenings are there because of various reasons, maybe 5 to 6 reasons are there, on the basis of that it gets broadened. Neglecting all other reasons, they are only concentrating and telling that this is having nano order crystallite size. How can it be true? It is never possible. You have to give emphasis on all these parts, why the broadening is happening. It is, there is temperature effect, there is pressure effect, there is structural effect, there is phase effect, there is slit effect. Broadening may happen because of all these reasons, right. So, unless you analyze properly whether the broadening is because of this or because of this or because of this or because of this, how can you tell this broadening is corresponding to the structure? Therefore, broadening does not mean that you are having nano order structure in the crystals or crystallites. So, you should be very carefully analyze if there is a broadening, for what reason the broadening is there, why the broadening is there at that angle, right. So, then now this is one part for the XRD, and again I told you if the peaks are there, how to index it, right, that part is clear. Like that peaks are there and you have to index and tell what kind of structure is there, that is the job of XRD if it is crystalline, right. So, similarly when it is X-ray data, that also has to be analyzed properly, because indexing is one way of analyzing the data, right. Indexing XRD is analyzing the data. How will you analyze, how will you handle the data to get the structure, that is indexing, one part qualitative, similarly quantitative. You are doing qualitative, but again quantitative is also there, and both are equally important, qualitative as well as quantitative. So, similarly when you tell about this small angle X-ray scattering, how to handle the data, right. You are getting the data from the instrument, but after getting the data what to do to get the structure, that is very important, which is called the analysis of the experimental data, right. So, then now here you are taking the care of, like I told you, background. What is that background? Collecting the instrumentation data is not true data of the sample, right. may it be small angle, may it be wide angle, they are not the real data corresponding to your sample. There are some background, liquid scattering, unnecessary things or scattering comes into picture, and there has to be deducted out from the intensity data collected experimentally. That is called as background correction. May it be wide angle, may it be small angle, it is a must. First step for data analysis. First step to handle the data is the background correction, right. So, for handling the data, first step is background correction. Background correction is a must, may it be XRD, may it be small angle. All experimental data are superimposed by background intensity. Background is impurity, various other regions are there. Even when the X-ray is coming, there is air particle, they will scatter, that refers to background. That is why it is called as liquid scattering, which are unnecessary scattering, not relevant to your structure, not relevant to your sample. That is called as background scattering, right. So, first you have to deduct out this background scattering, either it may be small angle or it may be wide angle. First step is background correction. First you deduct out the unnecessary intensities from that intensity that you collected experimentally. Then you will get the data or real data from the sample, from your sample. Background is not from your sample, rather from other parts, may it be air scattering, may it be instrumental scattering, may it be various regions are there, because of that you are getting some background, and that has to be separated out first. Then you will get the corrected data, that is called as background corrected data, means you remove the background, right. Experimental data are all the time, every time with background, all the time, every time with background. So, you have to remove that background, and that is called as background correction, right. Then after getting corrected, then you are getting background corrected data, that is the data from the sample under analysis, right. So, this background correction is the first step in both the cases, may it be wide angle or small angle. Then after getting the corrected data, then you think about this indexing, measure qualitative, quantitative, everything only after that. You may go for qualitative or quantitative, does not matter, but first you have to do the background correction. Similarly, for X-ray, small angle X-ray scattering also you have to go do the background. There also there is background scattering. You have to remove it out from that intensity data collected experimentally from the instrument. So, all instruments are all this time giving you background imposed or superimposed data. So, the first step to handle the data is this background correction. You have to do it, otherwise it will affect your structure. The structure will not be proper, right. So, the first step for analysis is the background correction, and then next you proceed further to get your structure. Like here you know about indexing, that is one way of analysis the data, right. Indexing is analyzing the data, but first step you do the background. Unless you do the background corrected data, this structure may not be same. So, the data that I have given for indexing are corrected. Background corrected data, at what position you are getting the peaks, there it is not necessary, because intensity is not coming into your picture. In indexing, intensity is not coming to your picture, only position where theta is. But if you are going for the phase analysis, it is a must. What kind of phase is there, then background correction is a must, that is quantitative analysis. What kind of atoms are involved, how atoms are arranged, everything gives from the intensity only, and in that case you should be take care of this background correction. But for quantitative, qualitative that you have done indexing, only position is important, intensity is not important. But when you go for intensity, from where you are getting what kind of atoms are involved, at what position the atoms are there, what kind of atom is where, all those are there in the intensity, for that background correction is a must. Otherwise, you may expect that some phase is there, but some other phase will come up, right. You are looking for sodium chloride, but you are getting a peak for some other sodium, chlorine and some other thing because of the background. And you can look at sodium is here, but the data will tell you sodium is there. So, it will complicate the problem unless background correction will be done properly. Right. So, these are the important things that one has to know. Then next time I will go for the other things what is remaining.